Aloha. With this video or this build, I wanted to go into or give more of a general outline of some of the mechanisms that are used to promote this poaching of human consciousness, this dumbing down with the facade of dumbing up or enlightening people or awakening people. Or we can see this easily with the marching protests that are out there that are it's no different than why Donald Trump is publicized so much the way he is. It's designed to suck you in. This is what it is. It's designed to suck you in. As long as you're sucked into that level of consciousness, you have no you have a lower probability that you will be able to stand in your own power, connect to your own deeper roots, and do anything that will actually be a threat to the system, not overtly, but internally. Your own self-empowerment will be a shockwave to the collective empowerment, and that empowerment exists outside of the levels of consciousness that this system wants you to be trapped within. So this is why so many systems, the system has to be so diverse. It has to be so in your face. It has to be very real, very deeply connected to your emotional interpretations of your emotional bodies, your every single body that is making up who and what you are. So your psychological body, your spiritual body, your physical body, your emotional body, your ego bodies, your relationships, your family relationships, your beliefs, what you're proud of. Every single thing that you hold dear to you has a sort of for lack of a better word, it has a vibration. Lower shit vibrations, like, you know, a bag of chips or a bag of top ramen, or, you know, something like that is not designed to enliven your spirit. It's more designed to fill your space so that you have an idea of feeling better or being full. So we have these artificial versions of fullness that are surrounding us, to where we're so bombarded by this artificial fullness that we don't know what fullness actually is, because part of that artificial fullness is to tell you what full is, what your definitions are. So you have your definitions of the universe, you have your definitions of humanity, you have your definitions of relationships, all prepackaged by the system, all prepackaged by the level of consciousness that has its entire experience vested in how unconscious you are, how chaotic you are meant to be by the programs. So what I try to expand upon on this channel are some of the systems that are out there that I don't see many people talking about. I see people, if people mention this information at all, it's very kind of quick. It's like at a glance, but that's not enough for me in my eyes, because what I'm getting ready to go into, this is the biggest weapon out there right now. It's the weapon that people don't even see, that is largely the majority, the status quo of people who are still locked into the mainstream consciousness, the TV, the movies, the politics, even the so-called aggressive progressives, even many of the so-called conspiracy theorists are still locked into this idea of, well, it's only this, or we only have to, like Alex Jones, we only have to spread the news, we only have to defeat the globalists, or David Icke, we have to make known about the reptilians. You can see how all of this is largely fear-based, and like I said in the previous video, this information is needed up, but my point is, it's needed up to a certain point, and that certain point is actually the most dangerous space to be aware of and not do anything about it. because that's where you start to trap yourself within this idea of woke, this idea of enlightenment, awakened, and that whole thing. And then you actually start to project your interpretations of what enlightenment is on everybody else. So this is why I'm showing these images of Jim Carrey right now. But mostly this is coming from, like I was saying in the previous video, how I fell into that trap when I was in the washing machine of the New Age community, leaving out of the protests sort of consciousness, the marching for, pretty much asking your slave masters to do something about the well-being of you and your people, when their entire lives are vested in keeping you down. So that's the wall, that's the ceiling that I hit. And I still see people consistently doing it, but I understand I don't have any attachments to it because it's needed. It was helpful for me up to a certain point. My point is with this video is that the so-called powers that be, the people who are very knowledgeable about how consciousness evolves, how it learns, how it grows, if you are aware of that information, then you could easily manipulate that process to work for a particular outcome. So this is why the inventions by Tesla were destroyed, or not destroyed, but hidden from the people and locked in government basements and then slowly released to the public so they can make a profit off of it. This is the same reason why the indigenous cultures or the ancestral civilizations are demonized and ignored, in a sense of taking all of the buildings, the structures, the math, the alchemy, the relationships that this system, those people had with this system, is a million times deeper than what's being projected to us today. All those Machu Picchu, those laser cut stones, those giant things that were moved around, specifically placed, and the pyramids and the connections across the earth and that whole thing, the extended version of demonizing the ancient people, which is demonizing you because it's demonizing your connection to the consciousness of the ancient people. The deepest thing they can do now, or the next level of that demonization, is to channel that energy into the next agenda. Enter in ancient aliens who gives none of the indigenous ancient cultures any credit for the ancient structures, for all of it. It's in the name. Think of it. Ancient aliens, not ancient human. Not ancient peoples, not ancient cultures, not ancient civilizations, ancient aliens. From the get-go, you are already locked into this fairy tale, this sci-fi movie, to where pretty much the entire mainstream media is based upon keeping you locked in that level of consciousness that it's prepping you like kids. It's prepping you. So basically what this is like a kindergarten consciousness. When I talk about that maxing out of consciousness, or I referenced before on another person's channel, this sort of circle jerk consciousness. This is what the New Age is really about. But this kindergarten consciousness is the same thing. Circle jerk consciousness within this whole kindergarten consciousness. It's the maxing out. The point is, once you max out, you've maxed out something like level 1 of Super Mario Brothers. Just imagine somebody celebrating beating level 1 of Super Mario Brothers and then totally ignoring the rest of the levels in the game. So that's what's going on with the New Age agenda. They're ignoring the ancient peoples, ignoring the mainstream. They're ignoring the consciousness that is existing, is parasiting off of the innocence of the organic consciousness of the child mind, the inner child. Like everything is, this is why you never hear the New Age people talking about the pedophilia stuff. I mean, en masse. the pedophilia stuff in the church, the politics in the Hollywood. You never hear any of that stuff. Just like you ain't gonna hear anything of them talking about poverty. They already just box it up in this idea of, well, that's their journey, that's their karma, that's their thing. And that's needed. That's seen as the next level of consciousness after ancient aliens. Because first you have to be open to this idea. And I'm pretty much going through my process of how I kind of like went in or was sucked in to these groups or this community, and eventually made my way out because I kept hitting my head on the ceiling, just like finding out what the extremes are for this thought process. Like, what are you guys really about? And I never got any answers from the New Age because I was the bad guy. Obviously, as soon as you start shaking shit up, you're going to be seen as the bad guy. Same thing happened in the protest stuff. I didn't really project anything out there in that community because it was literally a different mindset. I myself had seen for me personally, no benefit in yelling at the bankers. They already know what they're about. They already know. That's like at least 10 layers away from how jacked up, things really are on the spiritual warfare perspective, which is why they have all this marching and protesting, because they need it. It needs it for it to survive. It needs you to be asking the slave master for its freedom, which is why they tell you about this, worshiping the Second Amendment, worshiping the First Amendment. Like, the Constitution doesn't give me the right to speak. My spirit gives me the freedom of speech. Fuck the Constitution. Like, the Constitution only has power because the Constitution and free speech is being held against all the other countries around the earth who have been subjected to a deeper layer of intellectual, psychological, and spiritual enslavement to where they can't even speak anymore, whether it's from religious or political belief systems. So fuck that. The Constitution ain't got shit to do with my spiritual right to say whatever the fuck I want to say. So all these people out here talking about, oh, you just talking shit about, like I saw this picture of somebody ripping up the Constitution. You just ripped up your right to free speech. No. You saying that is a total misunderstanding of what that is even supposed to mean. But on another level, that piece of paper and these assholes who showed up to this land, to my land, to our land, those assholes who showed up here, they don't give me the right to do shit. They might have little alchemy, little mind control programs all over here, but internally, your internal voice is not dictated by forefathers. It's not controlled by anybody. But since people are so dumbed down and locked into these mind control programs, they can't go anywhere. Because they hit that ceiling, not only the fact that they hit the ceiling of kindergarten consciousness, but after the ceiling of kindergarten consciousness, in the transition point, they get into that circle jerk consciousness and start just like hanging out with each other and just being like, oh yeah, this is the best thing since sliced bread. We don't have to do any more. We're woke, right? Like, you walk into a house of woke and then you stay there forever. And anybody who knocks on the door who challenges your foundations, you're done. You can't have, just like you can't have peace. Like all these people talking about, we just need to, love is the answer. Peace is the answer. Like, you can't have peace and love and all that other shit if that shit is sitting on top of a foundation of chaos and destruction. You can't have it. So the New Age mentality is in that very statement is entirely destroyed, because they make a business out of ignoring that world and saying, oh yeah, well, this will just fix it. It's a spiritual zombie. They don't have anything in their own conviction that makes it their responsibility to address the issues that are in their very circles and in the circles of their so-called brothers and sisters in this unity perspective, in this oneness perspective. It's all bullshit. They're living in a house of woke, and then It's already got termites in it. It was built on a termite mound. When you build on top of chaos and destruction and act like it's not there, those termites will eat through your foundation. You'll live in a house. You might have a roof over your head for a little while. But as soon as those termites, and that's why I said these parasites, they don't care about time. It doesn't care about time. It's got all the time in the world because its time is based upon your lack of interpretation of what time really is, which is why heliocentrism was created, to invent this idea of time based upon a false universe. So it's stealing your time through stealing your consciousness and convincing you into a universe that has nothing to do with your well-being, nothing to do with anything that you hold near and dear to your organic self. None of that is of any value because the plastic perspective is the end-all be-all of reality. So we have this kindergarten consciousness. Just think about kindergarten. Like when you went to kindergarten, like for me, when I went to kindergarten, that was a whole year of being around brand new friends, a whole bunch of brand new adults who were very smart. They were in a place of smart. That's the house of woke when you're in kindergarten, pretty much. You're in that kindergarten world, and you're surrounded by peers. Like you can cross. Like for me, the biggest thing for me was I could talk about my dreams with other people, with other kids who were my age, and find out like what they were dreaming about, and find out like how they dreamed. Like, how do you fly in your dreams? How do you hold a dream longer? Like, how do you, like, that was like exciting for me because dreams were and still are a huge part of my life back then. And they've always been that way ever since then, which is why I always say it's so important to reconnect with your dreams. Anyway, so there was all these things. That was a level of consciousness that I was completely unaware of. I didn't even know kindergarten really existed that way. I was learning, the colors, the, blocks, the numbers, math, science, field trips, friends. It was the best thing. It was like intellectual Disneyland. But that was just designed to suck you in. This is why the kindergarten is kind of separate from first, second, and third grade, or all the way up to 12th grade, because it's designed like an introduction program. It's like, this is what school is really about. But when you get into first through you shift. You're in a sense like growing from a child to an almost adult now, because you're in the first level of the 12 levels that will bring you up to being an adult. So that's a shifting of consciousness that we don't even realize when you go from kindergarten to first grade. You go from being a little kid at 5 years old to being in the eyes of the education system, you're the youngest adult, you're the youngest mind, the youngest grown mind of this grown system. Which is why all your movies are PG-13, like all these action movies and PG, and even your rated R movies are still, they're still for 17-year-olds. So like it's still like this adolescent consciousness that's being promoted by the system itself. So I'll get into these images in a second. Just bear with me. I want to keep this video short as possible. I always say that. Where was that? Kindergarten. Okay, yeah. So kindergarten consciousness. So this is the part of the mind control program that we don't really pay attention to, and we just carry it into our adult lives. So like for me, when I got out of the protesting mindset and the asking my slave master for my freedom of speech, my freedom to, drive around and walk around. Like once you understand and overstand what those alchemical spells are, then it's not a part of your life anymore. The thing is, in a sense of controlling over you or power over you. The thing is, in that space of transition, you're very vulnerable. So you're still looking for something to fill your reality. This is where the New Age program is, and placed on purpose, in order to get people. I didn't even see that. What is that? What is this? Stephen Hawking's one. Now I'm gonna get into that in a second. So the system knows this. Basically, the new age is a kindergarten for adults who are starting to think for themselves, but they just locked themselves into another education system, the new age public education system. Excuse me. This new age public education system, kindergarten. In kindergarten, you're learning sacred geometry. You're learning the Fibonacci scale. You're learning vibration, frequency, cymatics. You're learning your relationship with like crystals, meditation, your body, your spiritual interpretations of reality, philosophy. This is still all kindergarten. It's not the max of your reality. That's what I was saying before. It's like people think that, you know, crystals and Palo Santo and sage and meditation and yoga and all this other stuff, they think that is what it means to be woke. No, that is kindergarten. Those are tools. Those are toys in your kindergarten class to help you get to where it is that you are telling yourself to go, not what some other system is telling you to do or where to go. But we don't even pay attention to that because we're so enveloped in this new kindergarten, this new version of reality. And this new version of reality is forever growing. Like you will forever be learning how to exist in like a walking meditation. It's forever. People are going to trigger you all the time, and it's just up to you on how you work with that or deal with that. It's based upon your growth. Same thing with like, relationships. Like close relationships are forever growing. They're always getting, like healthy ones are getting closer. They're getting deeper. So just like a relationship with somebody else gets deeper and more intelligence, more spiritually connected, more physically connected. Like all of these levels of consciousness get deeper once two people who think for themselves start to vest their lives and their energy into that reality, into that relationship. It's forever growing. It can take many lifetimes. From my own thought, like how I see it, it's possible that it could take many lifetimes to keep making those relationships deeper and deeper and deeper. And I'm not going to get into the whole like, oh yeah, twin flame stuff and all that stuff right now, because it's, when I even think about that, it's way too complex. The thing is, it's in that I'm really comfortable with saying is that it's possible. It's even more than possible in my life. It's probable to have an understanding that it can take many lifetimes to work on one single relationship that you're having with yourself, but reflected in other people. And those other people could be something else that you fly with, like somebody you fly with in a dream, or a reoccurring dream. You can have reoccurring spirits in realities. That's how I see it. Anything more than that is just kind of like adding on to like, oh, this could be and that could be. That's cool and all, but for now, that's where I'm at in interpreting that whole world. So anyway, back to kindergarten. So what happens with, and what's being promoted by this system is that the new age reality, the mainstream new age consciousness is designed to make you think kindergarten is graduating from the reality. The new age public education system, kindergarten, it wants to make you think that just by being accepted into kindergarten or the new age kindergarten program, that's it. That's the end of your reality. But the rest of your entire learning process is based upon addressing the system itself, realizing that you're still in kindergarten, realizing that you have more work to do. But when you have all these people throwing around labels like I'm woke, I'm enlightened, we should wake people up. I'm always asking people, that's what I'm always saying. I'm like, wake people up to what? To what extent? You just getting people pissed off all the time about, the weapons that are being used against us. Like I said, I know that work needs to be done. Those things need to be said because it helps people trigger. But that's also another circle of consciousness, no different than New Age programming. Instead of being in a circle jerk of love in the New Age program, you're in a circle jerk of fear and angst and conspiracy theory when you're talking about all the weapons that are being used against us. Chemtrails, fluoride, the food, like everything. We know everything. But once you start to see everything, everything is fucked up. That it's now your responsibility to do something with the fact that everything is not only fucked up, but it's fucked up intelligently, like on purpose. That is your responsibility to do something about that, if you choose to. Because this is what I'm saying. All the people who are talking about these weapons and all this stuff, the attack on people and humanity, they still have attachments where they have Christian attachments to it. Like, let's yell at Donald Trump and channel all that energy back into the church. We need to get right with Jesus. Or let's yell at the system and then channel all that energy into 1776 like Alex Jones. Or let's yell at the system or meditate at the system and then channel all that energy back to aliens and extraterrestrials and the alien agenda. Whatever it is that you want to yell at, you have to, at some point, you're going to realize that the entire system, not only realize that the entire system is designed that way, or is jacked up, but it's designed that way. And now that you know it's designed that way, it's your responsibility to start to decipher how that design works, both inside of you and inside of the collective. Otherwise, you're just going to be, masturbating, spiritual masturbation. It's just walking around talking about, you haven't heard about spiritual masturbation yet? Oh my God, you must be asleep. I'm woke. And then you're over there like doing your thing forever. So this is the infrastructure of what I'm calling spiritual colonialism. This is spiritual this new age extraterrestrial alien agenda, the Oprah Super Soul Sunday, even including this Alex Jones conspiracy theory stuff, channeling all that to 1776. And then he talks with Joe Rogan about interdimensional pedophiles that are, running the world, and we need to address this system. And so you have these people like Russell Brand out there. He's talking about consciousness and talking about love and all this other shit. And you got Jim Carrey talking about, I'll get to Jim Carrey in a second, but you got David Icke talking about that, coming together in consciousness and address the reptilians. It's very simple. It's a simple ass thing. Yet it's very complex because he talks about all these things and it's updated. His YouTube channel is constantly updated, and the perspectives that they want you to focus on are forever growing. And the perspectives that you can empower yourself with, I'm saying, are not at all really expanded upon by these majority of people that I'm going to run through in this video right now. And these examples that I'm getting ready to show you are examples of the manipulators of this spiritual colonialism that maintain the kindergarten consciousness, the new age kindergarten consciousness. And this new age kindergarten consciousness is what I'm saying is the biggest threat. It's bigger than everything else because it encompasses everything else. All the weapons, all the stuff, all the Constitution, the Trump, the globalism, the Alex Jones, it encompasses, and it not only encompasses all of that, because it puts it in this understanding and overstanding that there's a systematic mechanism or a systematic program designed to maintain control over you, maintain control over the masses. And it includes Alex Jones, the New Age, TYT, aggressive progressives, politics, the education system, heliocentrism, manipulated parts of conspiracy movements, and even the flat earth community. The people in there, the people in all of these communities have this kindergarten consciousness. And you can either channel that into being the smartest kindergartner in the school, or you can channel it into being the most spiritual kindergartner in the school. This is an example of that, are these flat earth Christians. It's like they're the most spiritual children in the kindergarten new age consciousness that is focused on flat earth as being the savior of the world. And I'll get into that even more so because Eric Dubé just dropped a video talking about Eric, or whatever. You'll see it in a second, but I'll loop back to that at the end of this video because most people who are looking at flat earth are subscribed to this channel. So that's why I talk about a lot of stuff in and around it and always loop it back, because it's one of the biggest things to make people realize that the very nature of your relationship to the universe goes down to your relationship to yourself. The sun, the moon, the stars, the earth, the water, the air, the ether, everything, the fire, everything is part of you. You are a reflection. You can take it poetically, alchemically, whatever it is that you want. You're an expression of what we're experiencing. So to be disconnected from that is to disconnect you from yourself. And if you disconnect you from yourself, you disconnect you from your family, your friends, your future generations, your intelligence, your spiritual connections to this reality, intellectual connections to this reality, your physical connections to this reality. All of them, if they don't get completely severed, they get hollowed out and get replaced with this sort of plastic consciousness, this plastic awareness of reality that is being promoted by the system. So this spiritual colonialism, Russell Brand is a good example of that. He's kind of, taking a back seat now. He's got a baby now, and that was his storyline. He did the truths and other, but he was out. The point is, he was out there to represent this certain level of consciousness to make people think, act, and feel a certain way. He did his job. Now he's just taking a back seat. Why? Because he hit that ceiling to where either he's told to shut up, or he told himself to shut up because he's happy in kindergarten. Either way, you're the same threat to the system. You're the same threat to the people and not a threat to the system, because that's the extent of the level of consciousness of that system. It needs people to expand their consciousness to stay in kindergarten, to stay in the new version of the public education system. So Jim Carrey is like another. David Icke is another. He's been around for 30-something years now. He's another one who does the same thing Russell Brand was doing. Kind of hints on. He doesn't hint on. He goes hard into that whole alien agenda, reptilians, interdimensional interpretations of consciousness and how they control us through our subconscious and conscious reality and so on and so forth. Like, he goes into that. The thing is, what are you doing with it? Where are you going with that? Are you channeling it right back into the system? After I share these examples with you, or are you channeling it into like just a circle jerk consciousness after you've gotten out of kindergarten? Like, because that's how I'm seeing. This is why I just, don't even pay attention. I literally can't, pay attention to David Icke anymore or Russell Brand, like, because I've changed. Like, the way I see this experience, they seem different within that experience now. Same thing happened when, when people were all up in arms about, Bernie Sanders, thinking he's going to save the world. Or a better example is Barack Obama. You grow out of it. You start to say, hey, what the hell is going on? And the system stays the same. He's still the same. Barack is still the same. He's still, if not worse, he's actually gone down. Like, campaign Obama was different than President Obama. So he's in reference to how that individual exists in your reality. His empowerment, his everything has gone down, whereas you've gone up if you've chosen to. So these are these gatekeepers. This is good. So you have gatekeepers within the spiritual colonialism. The entire spiritual colonialism is a gatekeeping program. The individuals that I'm getting ready to show you right now are gatekeepers within the gatekeeping program of spiritual colonialism. I'll say that again because that is the premise of this entire video and the entire perspective that I'm coming from with all of this. These people are the gatekeepers within the gatekeeper program of spiritual colonialism. Whether they know it or not is of no never mind to me, because whether they know it or not doesn't matter, because it still has the same effect on people. Like the New Age agenda, the majority of people in there are just, younger kids or really older people who largely just don't know anything else, any other way to think. So some of the older people, they're more vested in their belief system, so it's harder to let go. And then you have the younger people who don't ever have any belief systems, so that's harder to let go because now they have these brand new belief systems. You mean to tell me I gotta let go of this brand new shit that just fixed my life? I'm completely different now, and you want me to change that up? How dare you? So you got that whole program that's existing on the younger generations and the older generations. And what happens is that these gatekeepers, whether they're aware of it or not, are setting examples for people to gatekeep themselves. These gatekeepers in the spiritual colonialisms are setting examples through their reality to people, young and old, to gatekeep themselves. And this spiritual colonialism is the infrastructure of maintaining a dumbed down level of consciousness. Alex Jones maintains this emotional man-child 1776 forefathers worshiping, genocidal maniac worshiping, dumbed down consciousness. Same thing happens with Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian on TYT. Same thing happens with Fox and MSNBC and RT. All of those are the same. They represent a similar vibration. Same thing goes for these conspiracy programs, New Age. You see what I'm talking about now. They all represent a particular level of consciousness, and those individuals who are the faces of those frequencies, they are the gatekeepers of that part of the spiritual colonialism. So Jim Carrey is one main one. Right now, because he's kind of taking the reins for Russell Brand in this whole consciousness, and we're nothing really, we're nothing. What I explained in the video that, and I'll link it in the description. This sort of intellectual nothingness. That's what it was. Intellectual nothingness. So that it's a consciousness. That's what Jim Carrey represents. When I heard him just, spouting off that New Age circle jerk bullshit on these videos, and everybody was like, "Ooh, Jim Carrey's woke. Look, he's been woke since In Living Color. He's been woke in all these movies. He's woke, woke, woke." And he only seems woke because the majority of people are asleep. And even the people who call themselves woke, they're even more asleep because they think that they're in a dream within a dream. They think they're awake within a dream. Whereas you got people who are just dreaming. They're just American dreaming. That's, at least they have a fresh plate. They ain't put any garbage on their plate. They might be, living in shit and keeping themselves in that for a long time, but they haven't consciously, like people who are, calling themselves woke, still in a dream. They've gone to the buffet of gatekeeper consciousness and have chosen all kinds of different foods to put on their woke plate to eat for the rest of their lives. Sitting at that buffet of enlightenment. Good luck with that shit. So Jim Carrey, he's putting out that tone. He got you. He hooked you with the whole we're just light beings. We're just this interdimensional whatever that is, experiencing itself. Basically, boiling it down to the perspective of we're not the body, we're the soul, and we have a body. Whereas the mainstream reality is we are a body, because that's what the scientism community is about. It's about locking you into the materialistic interpretation of reality, this physical worship. Physical planets, physical stars, physical sun, physical moon, physical earth, and every part of it is completely away from you. You can't travel, you can't go to the planets, and even if you go to the planets, those planets are dead. The stars are a billion gazillion miles away. The sun is 93 million miles away. The moon is just this thing that's not even supposed to be there scientifically. There's so many unanswered questions in this thing that every day it just gets more and more like, how are people not seeing this? But whatever. I can see how people are not seeing it, because at one time I wasn't seeing it, but it was an easier transition for me, because I had already done a lot of the work to where I didn't need a lot of convincing, and I had already had the placeholders inside my reality. I just didn't put anything there. Like, I didn't put the Bible in my placeholder of what is spirituality. Once I started opening up to, like, what is God? What is this? What is that? Back in 2011, when I was asking those questions, some people just grab onto the closest things, because like I said in previous videos, we just have a lack of options, which is why people jump into the New Age community. They jump into the Bible. They jump into the mainstream religions, because you have a lack of options, and there's this sense of time to where, like, you feel like you want to get something back from the work that you put in. But your experience itself is what you're getting back. That's a point that you can get to. That's what a lot of people don't see. We're still externalizing our reality when we're waiting on Jesus to come back and save the world. You're waiting on aliens to come save the world in the New Age agenda. You're waiting on the next deeper mainstream religious interpretation of your reality, and that maxes out consistently. And this is why you have all this totally extremely polar opposite actions in the church and in politics and in Hollywood, where specifically in the church you have these preachers and these priests who are fucking around with all these women in the church under the guise of, being whatever. And then you have the same things happening with the priests. The preachers, for people who don't know, you can see these, and it's not only in the black church, but you see it's more obvious in the black church with all these pimps, these preacher pimps wearing these big ass Steve Harvey suits, all this materialistic bullshit, big ass house, big ass cars. What's that other guy who is? I just saw something. Dude bought a jet for the church. He's a preacher. Anyway, so that's one extreme. Taking advantage of humanity, taking advantage of the people. The same thing's happening, more extreme, in the priests, because that goes back even further. See, the materialistic stuff is rather brand new, pretty much, for the masses. It's not been brand new for the people in power, but for the masses, people have been... it's pretty much brand new to have your own car and all that other stuff. And anyway, so you have the preachers and the people in their church, and then you have the priests and the kids, these schoolboys, these that are being molested and abused, and then even further into these pedophilia rings and these sex trafficking rings all across all of the mainstream reality. These are the extremes that manifest when you are completely unaware of a spiritual warfare. And these people who are based upon, like living in, this is, channel all your energy into the church of, Jesus and Latter-day Saints and whatever the hell shit's out there. Like, they're doing all of this, but it's not anchored in anything real. It's not anchored in the spirit, in the natural spirit. And another thing is that that I forgot to mention. I'm gonna get into it in a second, but it's this perfection that's sold, and the perfection of, being the closest, being the most hardcore Christian, being the most hardcore flat earth Christian, being the most hardcore new ager. You got all these Christians wearing like 10 tons of crystals around your neck and like walking around in a cloud of sage forever, wearing negative shoes. Like, not only don't I not wear shoes, but I hate shoes. It's separating us from this and all this other shit. Your feet are fucking cut up and the dirtiest shit. You need to take care of yourself. Quit being extra spiritual, like extra ass. Anyway, a good example of this is, and I should just skip to that, is channelers. So Bashar is a good example of that. I'll get into that in a second. So I'll just hold this here so I can remind myself. I want to finish this off. Jim Carrey, you guys know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about how Jim Carrey is opening up the door to this gatekeeper kindergarten consciousness of the spiritual colonialism. But what I wanted to make it even more obvious with this art is that you can see that his art is the latest thing that's out there now. And what is he telling you with his art? All of his spiritual perspectives. He's been called woke. He's been called awakened. And what he does when he channels that information into art is he sets up another gate in that gatekeeping consciousness, that kindergarten consciousness, to where these images are what is understood by the people who called him woke as being woke, but he's still enveloped by the system itself. Obviously, Trump, everything is about Trump. Everything is about what is going on the political scene, on the mainstream scene. So he's not woke, he's mainstream woke. But since he's talked about like spirits and whatever it is that's out there, he channeled like Oprah and her Super Soul Sunday shit, and that whole like having Eckhart Tolle and all these other spiritual masters on her show. That's another version of gatekeeping you into a limited level of consciousness. Jim Carrey's just another Oprah on that, in that respect, where based upon the math, he's hooked you with the idea of him being woke, and then he reeled you in to the locked down kindergarten consciousness of channeling that energy directly back into the system, which is why I'm saying this is the most dangerous shit that's out there. This is the most dangerous shit that you could be doing. Because you are installing gatekeeper programs in other people. You're not installing it because the individual is going to install it themselves. But what you're doing is you're selling gatekeeping software at Best Buy, where everybody shops, the mainstream reality. You're selling it for next to nothing, like $2. This is how you get woke. It's free. It's basically free. But the $2 is in reference to having to do the work. Like, that's a work, that's energy. You're gonna have to actually go to Best Buy and do that work and get it. But once you get there, it's basically free. So you can see here, like I said earlier, this Stephen Hawking's picture. I didn't even know that. But what is he doing? He's channeling you back into the heliocentric universe, just as he was channeling you into the Trump consciousness. It's the same thing. Assholes left and right, pawning themselves off as being woke or enlightened or spiritual, or whatever the hell that is. So look at that. Was another No Vacancy, Statue of Liberty. So it's all political. His version of woke is all political. And like I said before, I know there's layers of consciousness that people have to go through. I'm not coming down on him for that. What I'm saying is that taken to another extreme, this is actually the most dangerous shit that's out there. So he's just one example of it. And you can see his art is a perfect example of what I was talking about and am talking about. You see, what's her? Huckabee? Sarah Huckabee? So you can see he's basically he's locking that hook deeper into your mouth, the mouth of your consciousness. He's locking it deeper in to the mainstream interpretation of reality. So it's Trump's politics, emotional body triggering, heliocentric programming, the scientism, and it's all Jesus programming. You see this, and then he even called himself, oh, maybe I'll play Jesus and this whole thing. So it's creating enlightened chaos. That's what it is. It's woke chaos in kindergarten. So you're just up there. And basic, and even more accurate, it's hopelessness. You're hopelessly locked into this frame of consciousness. You can't do anything about it. You're stuck. You're out of your you're out of your scope if you think you can do anything about it, because somebody like Jim Carrey, who's already woke and enlightened and is a millionaire, he is still enveloped in this political frame of consciousness. He is deciding for you what woke really means once they've put that label on him. The same way they put that label on the New Age program. The same way all of these other people who are watching Ancient Aliens and believing in this alien agenda and all this other nonsense is seen as being like enlightened and spiritually connected to whatever, and so on and so forth. So I'm not going to play those other videos. I'm just going to show you, because this video was enough to explain, or these images are enough to explain the basic infrastructure of what spiritual colonialism looks like. And this links back to what I was saying before about intellectual nothingness or spiritual nothingness. To where it's just like running in circles. Instead of running in circles of shit and chaos, now you're running in circles of love and light. And one holds you down, and then you holding yourself up in the circles of chaos is you being strong. But now in these circles of love and light, now you being strong is you being enlightened. But you're only enlightened just like you were only strong in reference to chaos. Well, now you're only strong in reference to kindergarten consciousness. You're only strong in comparison to. And that's what the system banks on. Stop thinking for yourself. Stop doing this. Stop doing anything that threatens the system. Channel all of your energy back into the system and don't say anything else. So these individuals, I think I can switch over now. So you can see, look, Putin. I haven't even looked at any of these images up until now. I just saw a video where a guy referenced it, and then he didn't really go into it at all. He just was just like, oh, Jim Carrey's doing art now. So I was like, what the hell? So I knew it was something to pay attention to because of what he's already been known for, talking about all that woke stuff. So another version of this woke reality is, these are other examples. These are New Age examples of this woke sort of kindergarten consciousness. So for people who don't know, if you want examples, you can look for yourself. But these are just like some examples. So you have, hopefully you can hear it. I'll just play a little clip so you can hear, like, you don't even really need to hear it. You can see it. Look, become a certified realm reader. All right. So this is Doreen Virtue. She's a self-proclaimed like angel, whatever. Now she's a Christian now. So I don't even have to play anything else. I don't even special online, whatever. She started out in the New Age, and now she's a full-blown Christian. Same thing that happened to people in the flat Earth. This is part of the kindergarten spiritual colonialism, to lock you down. It sucks you in, and then it spits you out. So flat Earth sucks people in, and it spits out flat Earth Christians. The New Age community sucks in people who are just chaotic and completely separated from their reality. And then it spits out these still chaotic, but now they're chaotic with a Christian purpose. like a biblical meaning, some kind of connection. That's what I said. And these are stepping stones. This is not to have judgment on any specifics. This is to bring light to how these mind control programs are manipulated against the people. That's why I'm talking about this stuff, because it has a conscious effort to lock down people. And now since it's used to lock people down with chaos, now it's locking people down with love and light. And these are some of the examples.
Video course that you can take.
Of course you can.
Also, the next realms will all be a blend of the 4 core realms that we just learned about, which were the incarnated angels, the incarnated elementals, the star people, and the wise ones. Our first blended realm is called the mystic angels. The mystic angels.
Hopefully you can hear it.
Our next blended realm are the knights.
Okay. We're not gonna. Let me turn this on.
The Atlanteans have literally
lived so here's
in
this
the
Atlantean
ancient
stuff.
continent and culture of Atlanta and one half star.
Ancient aliens. That's what I'm saying. Ancient aliens ties into all of this stuff. Ancient aliens ties directly into this. This is why the mainstream New Age relationship is so important to take note on, because this is how it's being sold. It's like angels, Christianity, aliens, and channelers, and Oprah, and all this other shit that's out there.
A person might surprise you, but it'll make sense in just
half
belief
incarnated
in the knowledge
ancient,
of water, and then
this,
became land dwellers.
mermaids,
Sweet,
incarnated
innocent.
angels.
Remember that there are an unlimited number of hybrid blended realms based upon the
blended
4
realms.
core realms of incarnated angel,
Okay.
incarnated elemental,
All right.
star people,
Oh, for real?
and wise ones.
Oh, okay.
If you're not sure what realm you come from still, if you're feeling even more confused because of
Buy
all
my
these different realms,
videos,
you're not alone. That's a natural
online
reaction.
video thing.
It's
'Cause
a good
she's a
idea
certified
to watch
realm reader.
all of those realms again, at least one more time. Hi, I'm
No, I'm not.
3 months after U.S.
So
enters
this is-
World War II, the ETs have the Battle of Los Angeles.
Oh,
now, what
snap.
is this? This is the headline, as I said last time, where we see some kind of flying craft that appears over L.A. You can see all
Oh, no. So this is, like I said before, the Oprah and the New Age ties in Christianity and all that, and ancient aliens. Well, David Wilcock is a representation of how politics and how aliens specifically, and the government and secret space programs and all that shit, that he ties that into the New Age perspective. And same thing goes with like Stephen Greer and all these other people I'll get into in a second, but I just wanted to give some quick examples of who these people are for people who don't know.
searchlight beams were on it. It wasn't moving very quickly. It was hovering.
Oh, okay. So basically, if it's in the newspaper, according to them, if it's in the newspaper, it has to be real. It has to be real aliens or extraterrestrials. And he might hint towards the fact that it could definitely just be government UFOs, but his intention is to lock you into the idea that extraterrestrials are based upon a benevolent energy that is it's just the new Jesus. That's what these alien mentalities are. And to make it real for you, they got to show you all these images over and over and over again.
This is reported looking like a jack-o'-lantern. The 37th Coast Guard, something that was real.
Whatever. So he's still on that
People
bound.
died of heart attacks, and you can see the shell.
Okay, so this is just this guy was on Ancient Aliens. Like, he was literally on Ancient Aliens as a speaker there. So you can tie that into the mainstream and even further. Even more than that, he's been tied into, he's anchored in the New Age community, supposedly connected with all these insiders about like, oh, well, there's a secret space program and there's these benevolent aliens that look like blue alien human hybrid birds And they call themselves the Sphere Being Alliance. So here's that sphere programming again. Sphere Being Alliance. And not to mention, I've done a video on this too. David Wilcock came out hard against Flat Earth, cussing and everything. Oh yeah, man, this is just bullshit and all this other stuff. So anyway, that's in the funny not funny playlist because it's just not funny. It's just so ridiculous. But this is childish. Like I said, this is kindergarten. So basically what David Wilcock and people like Jim Carrey and Dorian Virtue are doing are approaching these people in the kindergarten consciousness for adults, and hoping that they'll buy into the next layer of the public education system, which is first grade through 12th grade of whatever it is they want you to be locked into, whether it's channeling, the secret space program agenda, the alien agenda, whatever it is, whether they know it or not. It's something, and that something is not for your benefit. So this next one, so that's David Wilcock. This next one is a channeler named Bashar. And Bashar, like I said, you'll hear, and you can see just with the title, the 5 levels of mastery.
All right, good evening, my downline darlings. How are you faring this evening?
So it's already, you can see these like they're there because this is supposed to represent some higher level of consciousness. So they've already invited themselves into, this is basically like a PTA meeting for kindergarten consciousness. And he's like the teacher telling you what's being taught in kindergarten consciousness. And he maintains this idea of perfection that you'll hear it in a second. Hopefully I'll catch a good spot. This idea where he just spouts off this circle jerk consciousness of perfection that people don't normally get into on a regular basis, but they're aware of, they can comprehend it. But you're not meant to be perfect. But if somebody tells you, are you not living in your highest joy in every moment of your life, like he's getting ready to say, that pretty much shuts you down. It's like, well, I can't question my reality at all. I can't feel a certain way. I can't feel, like, he pretty much just numbs out your entire emotional body and everything, because you're just not supposed to feel that way. You're supposed to be living in your highest joy in every moment of your life. Well, that's just a fancy way of explaining the idea of perfection. It's untrue. It's totally fake. But if he sells it that way, he can convince you that he is of some sort of higher consciousness than you by telling you that you're not perfect. He's not saying that he's perfect, but he's saying that he has the knowledge of perfection and you're just not a part of it. So you're the problem. This is why these channelers get worshipped.
All right then. Let us be giving you some information at the moment on the idea that has been called in my world the 5 levels of mastery. This is a process. This is a training. This is a system that has been developed over hundreds of years of your counting, us being upline 700 of your years.
See, that's it again. That's what's constantly, and you can hear, he's just sucking, or it is just sucking you into that consciousness. It's sucking you into the believing whatever it is that you're supposed to believe for them to maintain control over you. I hope this video is still running. I should stop this and then I'll just keep going.
That which you call your future is in the form of our question.
Oh, good.
You know what that question is?
The highest
Are
excitement?
you acting every moment that you can on your highest excitement to the best of your ability with no insistence on a particular outcome?
So her question was, do I have any messages from you or from whatever, your consciousness? And he says, anytime we have that question, we answer that question with that question. And that question, that is what he just said, is what I just said, is that whole fancy definition of perfection, which is only designed to make you feel like you got something out of it. It's like, oh, I should be living at my highest joy and my highest in every moment. But that's not what this life is about. That's a robot's interpretation of what a human experience is about. A robot got the definition of perfection, and now it's relaying that definition back to the organic people and making them feel like shit, which makes them feel higher than them. This is the basic premise of this entire channeling relationship that I've been talking about for the last few years now, where the extremes of this consciousness that comes through channeling is totally malevolent and has nothing to do with helping you get anywhere more than it's designed to trap you in a kindergarten consciousness. So I don't even have to go any further. The rest of this is just bullshit. If you want to know about that, you can do it for yourself.
The Flat Earth movement is misleading
So,
in the sense that it usually talks about an actual Earth. It's not an
so then you go into...
the deer heart.
So this dude's eating a deer
That
heart.
must be really hard to chew and bite.
So this is a guy who's connected to Flat Earth. He did a video with I haven't even watched this video yet. I just saw the thumbnail. He did a video with ex Flat Earth asshole Jake. He did a video with him. The point being is that this is another micro example of the chaos that gets installed in people. So you have the extremes of eating meat and the extremes of veganism, and these are big in the flat earth right now because it's all about like being enlightened and being better and all this other shit. And it's just like flat earth Christians, just a different way. It's like a new age version of it. So you have this is just a good example of the extremes. That's all I wanted to share with this video. He's connected to flat earth. He's out there. He's got like 22,000 subscribers, connected with people who talk in the flat earth communities. Talks about like literally not only eating meat, but eating meat, like rotten meat, eating. So this is the point is people are so chaotic. They don't know what the hell to believe or what to think. So they're going to be trapped in whatever is new out there. So you have people eating just straight up uncooked or anything meat, rotten meat, rotten this, and then you have people not even eating anything. On the other extreme, just breathing air, and that's it. They're breatharians. And then you have vegans and vegetarians and all this other stuff, and everybody's hating on everybody else because they think that they have the best thing, not realizing that you're still trapped in kindergarten consciousness. Not only that, but not even looking into what the ancients were already doing. So these are examples of people trying to reinvent the wheel because they don't have any fucking foundations. This dude is just making videos telling people to eat raw meat. No different than other people just talking about just don't eat anything. Just breathe prana and just all that other shit. It's like there's so many different extremes that are out there. And all of them end up being snake oil salesmen. Whether they know it or not, whether it's consciously or not, is because it's just bullshit. We're not addressing the actual issue of you not having any foundations in the first fucking place. You're just jumping to another extreme. Whether it's eating raw meat or being a total vegan, and then just attacking people for not being like you. It's ridiculous. You're repeating the same mechanism, that the same alchemy that the system is using against everybody. It's just a micro scale. This is no different than like flat versus globe. So you start attacking globe heads, not realizing that they're just the same as you were. They're still just in a belief system, but you're now in a belief system. Whether you believe that, we came from Africa, we came from the North Pole, we only designed to eat only meat, we're only designed to eat veganism, we're only supposed to worship Jesus, you can see it's just one stream of consciousness. But what is there? It's a linear interpretation of what woke is and all that other stuff. And then in those linear interpretations and labels, you kill it. It's dead. So there's that guy. And then you have the mentality of you have the mentality of flat earth saving the world. And this always goes back to what I was saying before of You talk about flat earth, but and just like when I was saying Richie from Boston talks about all these weapons, but what's your end game? What are your goals? You tell people to wake up, but what are they supposed to wake up to? Not only that, what are they actually waking up from? If you just lighten up, see, like that light ass Mark Sargent, Patricia shit, they don't even recognize the depths of how fucked up it is to be lied to about your entire universe by the way they present themselves in this whole mentality. So they haven't really empathized with what you've been separated from. They don't even acknowledge that. By being light about this bullshit, like being light about heliocentrism and colonialism and genocide and massacres and all the other control grids, by being just lightening this up into this TV show, you are inherently a gatekeeper of stopping people from going into realizing what they were just separated from, because you're desensitizing them by just being, all just soft about it, and consciously ignoring the intent of this spiritual colonialism. So taking a step even further, I asked people like Eric DeBay and Richie from Boston, what are your goals here? What are you really talking about? Are you really talking about what do you think we have been separated from? And once you are talking about waking people up, what are you talking about waking them up to? For Eric DeBay, you want to wake people up to the Jew world order? Do you want to wake people up to the flat earth? Because that's all I see. That's all I hear coming out your mouth. And the same thing for Richie from Boston. You yelling at everybody about like how bad everything is. And this is not a slight to Richie or anything. Like, I respect the work that he does. I understand that. And like I said, all of these peoples in these levels of consciousness are tools to get to a certain place, a next, or at least allow people to get to another. Maybe it's not, maybe that's what they're supposed to do. Maybe that's all they're supposed to do is be that stepping stone. And that's why I said there's nothing wrong with this. But since you are an actual person, I'm gonna ask you, if you ever get around this or whatever, what are your goals? What do you think when you tell people, wake up? We need to wake up, people. To what? To what extent? Alex Jones wants people to wake up to the globalist agenda and channel all their energy into patriotism in 1776. At least he's, saying what he's about. But you got these conspiracy theorists out here who are hiding behind all of this scary ass information. They don't want to tell you what they're about. They don't want to tell you about where they're going or where they came from. They just want you to remain enveloped in there and worship their asses because they have been in the game for a while. They've been talking about this for a while. But you can run on a treadmill all your life. You can be strong as shit and you can run forever. That don't mean you about anything. You go to a higher elevation, your ass is done. You can't breathe. Get to a higher elevation. Get off that damn treadmill of talking about how things are just so fucked up and start finding out what you've been separated from and what it is that you're supposed to be waking up to. Figure it out. Flat Earth Christians, I respect them flat Earth Christians too, because they're at least about it too. The respect is a different thing than observing how they are a part of this system. I respect it in the sense that they're out there speaking about this information. Same thing about Eric and Richie. I respect, people for doing that work, but shit, we're still people. And if we was hanging out around a fire, I'm gonna be like, what the fuck are you about? You telling my friends and family to wake up. What are you telling them to wake up to? So the next one is this serious documentary that's on Netflix. So this ties in the mainstream media, Netflix, and so on and so forth, like I was saying before. And another.
What people need to understand is the secrecy around UFOs and extraterrestrial intelligence really has nothing to do with ETs. It has to do with humans. And the power that is resting in large corporations and financial interests that do not want you to know the truth.
See? You see, it just sucks it right back into the political financial system, and it's just another version of protesting. The bankers, it's the same thing. So Stephen Greer is a supposed insider with all these people. He got all these people together in 1993 to talk about exposing disclosure of the alien agenda and so on and so forth. And now he has this documentary that's on Netflix, which is another gatekeeper in this level of consciousness that is designed to keep you in this spiritual colonialism. And that's pretty much it. Those are the people, and those are the kind of different categories that are within this gatekeeping program of kindergarten consciousness that I had been referencing in a lot of other videos, but needed to bring it back together again because I got that Jim Carrey puzzle piece that I didn't see before, and it was obvious. You can see his art. You can see what it's about, and it's a good example of the kindergarten consciousness and the spiritual colonialism. So anyway, that's what I have for this video. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for the support. Thank you for sharing, liking, and subscribing to this channel. Coming up on 10,000 subscribers now, which is pretty cool, coming from nothing, especially with the extremes of information that I talk about. And also, especially with all the censorship, I've seen chunks of subscribers disappear. I've seen view counts go down on videos, so that's within the system. So, against all that shit, still people that are coming around and checking out what's going on. I know a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about right now would be extreme for me not that long ago. So thank you for everybody who is showing support for this channel. I really do appreciate it. And it helps me out, not only on this channel, but personally too at the same time, to know that there are people out there, to know that what you're thinking is being received and by somebody else who can, figure it out and can really feel it. It's another language, the feeling language, that I really do appreciate people sharing, because I know the majority of people just don't subscribe, and then they don't even say anything about the video. But I am aware that the people do feel it, and that's the only thing that matters. This stuff is just out there just to be. It's just another form of another piece of art. So yes, thank you to all the old subscribers and the new subscribers. I'm working on a few projects right now. This is why I'm kind of like slowing down, so look out for that in the future. And until next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.